At this time, we're back. Eric DeSobe here, joined by Henry. Henry, give folks the scoop about where you're working these days and what you're recruiting for.
Yeah. Hey everyone. I'm Henry. I am the director of talent and HR at UMaine Charter School. So in my role, I oversee all of our talent HR systems, and that includes our hiring as well, which is a lot of what my background is mostly about.
And we talked to a lot of folks who work for school systems, school network. Each one's a little bit different. Yours, I think, has a kind of unique student population and teacher population. Describe what kind of folks you're trying to hire.
Yeah, so we're a Mandarin immersion public school, and we do hire non-Mandarin teachers. Most of our staff are Mandarin homeroom teachers,
Mm.
and they need to be fluent in Mandarin. So most of our teachers are coming internationally. We hire a lot of teachers from Asia, and also some folks who come to the States to do their grad programs. And so they're on different visas. Some of them are looking for H-1B sponsorship, and we also do that as well. So it's pretty unique in terms of what our hiring processes look like to ensure that we are actually looking for the right type of candidate who is eligible to actually work at our schools with their credentialing and also the requirements for our visa sponsorship.
So, if you are a recruiter who is thinking about maybe engaging the services of a company that would help with facilitating visas for international teachers or things like that, would that be something that you would recommend folks to consider, or what kind of questions would you want them to ask to make sure that they understood what they were getting into?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I think it can be really attractive, right? When you get a outreach from a company that can give you access to folks looking for visas. And I think the biggest consideration is the longevity of that teacher. So if you are only looking for a teacher for a couple of years, that it could be a stop. But if you're bringing over that teacher, they could also have their own desire to have a more permanent solution, right? So they may be looking for H-1B sponsorship and green card sponsorship. And so as the organization, it's your responsibility to really ensure that you understand what you're looking for. If you're okay with just a few years, if they're on a temporary J1 visa, gives them about 3 years at times, they can be a visiting teacher, and that's okay for those 3 years, then you have to be really clear about that at the upfront. Otherwise, you're not being super clear with your intentions, and that could cause some strife when that teacher comes into your school and organization.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it's just being really clear about, what your needs are and if you can actually sponsor past that temporary visa
Yeah.
process.
And then as you're thinking about candidates, you of course have to think about their ability to impact kids in a positive way in the classroom, and their teaching skills and their chops that way. But I imagine you also have to ask a lot of questions about, especially if they're coming from coming internationally, the adjustment to teaching in the United States and moving to an entirely new country, living in a different community. How do you assess candidates' possibilities for success in something as challenging as that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a big part of it for when we're interviewing our international teachers, because for so many of them, they did not grow up in the US education system, right? Their culture is very different. And so a lot of it is trying to understand, their experience. Some of our teachers have gone to grad school in the States, and so they have some of that experience in their teaching program. But others who, are straight from, they've never ever been in the United States or have any type of exposure to that, we're asking questions about what do they know about, the education system in the United States? What is their experience working with students who don't look like them and come from different cultures? And because we want to make sure that whoever we're bringing over, they're not gonna be, we know we're realistic that they don't have that experience, so they're not gonna be at the same level that we expect for other people, but we want to make sure that they actually have the capacity to learn, to adapt, and that they have some type of experience that gives us some confidence that they can grow in those areas and that they at least have some understanding or knowledge about it.
And then for your international candidates, are they only able to do Zoom interviews with you, or are there opportunities when they may already be here so you can see them in person, they can see the school? How does that actual interview process work for y'all?
Yeah, so we do Zoom screens for the initial
Mm,
conversation, and it's just good for us to be able to
I bet. Yeah.
interact a little bit more personally and for us to see a face and have them also see me. And be a little bit more comfortable in that process, especially nowadays with a lot of just AI. And we want to make sure that we're actually talking to a real person, especially if it's overseas. So that's how we do the Zoom screen. And then there are opportunities for them to come in to the States, if they're out of the state and they're in a different location, to fly over or submit a video. That's often what we do, because we just know that it's just much easier for folks to submit a video, and then we can assess their teaching ability through that. And I think one thing I wanted to mention is that we really want to also make sure that they understand the expectations. So throughout the hiring process, there's parts of it where we'll ask them to do certain steps to ensure that they are on track to either getting their credential or that they're eligible for that visa sponsorship. In the past, what happened was, teachers we would be very eager to hire folks, and we would just say, hey, we can, as long as you have the skills, we'll get you through, and then we will worry about the other things later on, right? Your immigration process, your credentialing process, and all of that's tied together. And so we started to actually implement it during the hiring process, some steps where folks will they're required to show some type of evidence that they've either completed one step in getting their credential, or they've actually reviewed the expectations of how to get credentials, because some of them will have a single subject credential in Mandarin, and then we need to switch that over eventually to the corresponding credential for their assignment. And so it's important for us to know that they have that initiative and drive to have the knowledge, that they've done their research, and that they understand the expectations, rather than coming in and then later on realizing that it's a lot of work and that they maybe didn't want to do all of that. So those are some of the steps that we've implemented in our hiring process to ensure that teachers are also getting that clarity around the expectations, and that we're setting them up for success. And also for us, that we are having them do the steps so that later on the teacher is aligned to that and understands that those are the requirements of the job.
Well, last thing, if folks want to learn more about your school network, or if you have any open jobs right now, where can folks find more information or find you?
Yeah, so if you go to our website, umeschool.org, we have a lot of opportunities under our hiring page. We are hiring across all different subjects. That includes our English teachers as well. So it's not Mandarin speaking exclusive. And we do have some network roles, after school roles, also does not require Mandarin. And so, we're one of the top public schools in California, and we just love to meet people who are interested in our mission and are looking for a high-performing school that is really embracing, being able to learn a different culture and having our students really be those global change makers that we know our society needs in order for our world to be a better place.
Yeah, well said. We'll put the info in the episode description for this. Henry, thanks for coming on. Thanks everyone for listening. You can catch all past episodes, all the places you get your podcasts, and of course catch us on YouTube as well. Until next time, we'll catch you soon.